Evening and welcome to the Late Late Show with me, Irish Tommy. And it's great to see you all again. I haven't done the show for a while, mostly because of work and some other things getting in the way. But we're back tonight and hopefully back to being a bit more regular again. And someone else who's very regular, my old mate James. How you doing, mate?
All right, mate. How you doing? How's it going?
Good. Yeah, doing good, thanks. Yeah, but yeah, been such a poor season. And I'm thinking, next week, after we've got the Ipswich game out of the way and book closes on this season, we'll maybe get you on if I can next week, and we'll kind of do an end of season review. But I'm sure we'll get to some of it this evening as well. It's basically an open forum tonight. The only thing I did want to talk about, I don't know if you saw the thumbnail or what we're really talking about, is the Premier League a closed kind of league now? Actually, I'm going to bring in Luke because he's here, fashionably late as always. Luke, how are you, bud?
Here he is, trouble.
Hello, boys.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, well, I was just about to get into the subject of the thumbnail. Before we got cracking, I wanted to make sure you could hear what was being said as well. But I'll kind of give you guys the floor first on this one. But the question being, is the Premier League now a closed league, essentially? When you look at what's been going on in recent seasons, I think this is the third or fourth year in a row where the three teams that were promoted from the Championship have gone straight back down. It's becoming, it seems, more and more difficult for promoted teams to even survive a single season in the Premier League. And if you look at teams such as ourselves, Everton, Wolves at other times, teams who've been in the Premier League for a while now, even when we've had like really, really poor seasons, which previously maybe would have seen as being really banging trouble and desperately fighting for survival, it's just not the case anymore. Everton, I know, under Lampard had a final day reprieve where they won on the final day of the season and stayed up. That's about as close as anyone's come since, really. That's a kind of team that's been in the Premier League for a few seasons. And I think going forward, it's going to be something that, if it continues as it is, something that I think the Premier League are going to have to address, because it's not healthy for the game. Obviously, PSR has had a huge impact as well. I'm sure you guys will touch on that too. But it just seems to me we're getting into dangerous waters where, if this continues much longer, it's really going to be an issue, because we've had a horrible season. It used to be, remember, 40 points was the magic number. And now, it's not even 40. I mean, the gap is so much now between the established Premier League teams and the teams coming up, that it's becoming incredibly difficult for them to survive a single season. Do you think this is an issue, James, or is it too soon? Or
I think it is an issue,
mate.
I think it is an issue. I think a lot of the Premier League clubs are so far advanced, and basically where the top end of the league is so competitive, the bottom half ain't got a chance. A lot of these up and coming clubs that are coming up, they're going to have to literally have to cheat to stay in the league. We've only got to look at Everton and Nottingham Forest for that. Do you know what I'm saying? I make mine pretty short and sweet. I think this is like, we're starting to see the Super League that we all feared many, many years ago, where the Super League is actually in front of our eyes and no one could really see it. But you know what? As long as we're all right and we manage to stay in the league, that's the main thing for me. Because I think if West Ham ever dropped out of the league, I think they'll find it really hard to get back in it, the way how competitive it actually is.
Yeah. So you're not particularly worried about it, or do you think it's something like? Would you be? Obviously, look, all of our concern is with West Ham first and foremost, and West Ham staying in the league. But just, I mean, for the health of the Premier League, I don't think a closed shop is necessarily a good thing going forward.
No, I think basically it's the money, innit? It's the FFP and the PSR thing, and it's everything to do with that at the top. But I do think many years ago the league was like top 6, and then you had your sort of bottom 7 to sort of 14, and then you had your bottom half. Now I think it's like a top 12. If I'm being honest, like when you look at all them teams there, like even Brentford, Brighton, and Bournemouth, they've all done it. They've all come up and maintained it. So I'm not really worried about it. I think next season, if Sunderland come up next year, I think it's 2 from 3. I think two teams go down out of basically the 3 that have come up. I think one might stay up next year. As long as it ain't us, I'll be happy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. How do you feel on this one, Luke?
It's not the first time I've had this debate, to be fair. In fact, I think I've even brought it up myself on other videos. There is a conspiracy that PSR was brought on to do exactly what we're all talking about, that they want to keep the status quo as it is. Anyone who wants to get in will have to pay extortionate amounts just to try and stay in the league, and even then they'll probably get sanctioned or something because they've done something wrong or whatever. But I believe Nottingham Forest done something recently where they got found and then ducked points and then somehow got around it or something else.
Forest got deducted points.
Yeah.
And this, I thought that was an interesting strategy because I believe it was a strategy.
Right.
I think the owner, I can't remember his name, the Greek guy.
Renakis?
I think it was deliberate. I think he was like, look, we're going to take our chances. I'm going to spend too much money, and we're going to take our whatever it is, our 5 points or 6 points or wherever it is, and hope that the money we've spent will give us a good enough team that we can survive that season when we get the points deduction and stay in there and survive it. And that's exactly what they did. And they're actually reaping the rewards of it now. And I won't be surprised if they're not the last team to do it. Now, whether or not the Premier League have changed things since, maybe they'll increase the penalties for teams kind of going over the PSR. Maybe the points deductions will get bigger. But I think that was a calculated risk that Forest made.
Yeah, but do they know, though, Tommy, that are they looking at it and thinking, right, where the league is so not competitive for these teams coming up, they can take the piss a little bit, knowing full well that they've got the advantage that these teams ain't going to get to the points that they generally need to get to stay in the league.
Yeah, I mean, if you're one of the other 17 clubs,
yeah,
I mean, it's a terrific safety blanket. I mean, if you look at us, our points tally this season, throughout the history of the league, I mean, you're in trouble on that points tally. But because the gulf is so big now, that even the teams coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you look at our opponents on Sunday, Ipswich, as bad a season as we think we've had, they're nowhere near us.
I'm going to be honest. I'm so shocked with Ipswich. I really thought Ipswich would stay up this year. I thought they had the manager in place. I thought they signed some good players, and I really did believe that they were going to stay up. And now they've just not self-destructed. That's the wrong choice of word, but they've just not had nothing about them. Like they had that win at Wolves, where they won in the 90th minute. And I thought, oh, this is going to springboard them. And then they lost the game badly against someone, and it's just completely derailed them. Like, and they just can't. There's nothing about them, and they've got some good players in their ranks. Delap's a good player. Leif Davis is a good player. Hutchinson's decent. And that's the shocking thing for me is they've gone for young up and coming Championship players to sort of maintain it, and they've got nowhere near.
Yeah, and they got the Clark from Sunderland as well.
Jack Clark, yeah.
Jack Clark. But I think, Luke, what they've probably done, Ipswich, is that if you were an established Premier League club and you were to take any of those players, maybe individually, you think, oh, I like the look of Hutchison, we need a right winger, and you put them into an established Premier League team, you could probably have a very good season. Same maybe with Leif Davis, with a number of other players who've come up who look like really good players individually at Championship level who could make it in Premier League level. But I think when you take that many players who are still young, still improving, and are inexperienced at Premier League level, it's probably too much because they don't have those other players around like they would have if they were joining an established Premier League club where they just have to slot in and their lack of experience won't matter as much because they're surrounded by kind of pros of being there and done that. And so it's a different kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I've looked at him a little bit like this season's Luton, who the season before, who like dogged, hard-working, play a good bit of football, entertaining to watch, but they just haven't quite got that necessary, steel to sort of see games through or win games or score goals or whatever. I think they probably tried to go with their own strategy, like you said, of buying decent championship players and hoping they would flourish, or at least mature in the top league. And unfortunately for them, it hasn't happened. But there was a little while back. I didn't know
Yeah.
this, and I sent a link to an interview with Richard Scudamore, who's the former Premier League chief executive, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he was asked when Leicester won the league, and he said they said, "Oh, it must be amazing to see a team that no one thought would ever have a chance to go and win the top league. What's it going to do to the image of the Premier League?" And well, it was nice to happen once, but you wouldn't want it to happen all the time. And it was basically like saying, like, that's it's a nice every now and then, but we're basically we like it the way it is. There's like I said, it's a status quo thing. It's not a. I don't know who the new guy is. If it's not him anymore, I'm not clued up on that, to be honest. But
yeah, and when you think about it, it's not as if Ipswich were skinflints. I think they spent about 100 odd million.
well, it's funny. It's that build up, isn't it? Because you could say the 100 million, and you go, well, hold on, what if you compare what we would spend 30 million on compared to what they spent 30 million on. And I don't know what Wolves will spend 30 million or Fulham will spend 30 million on, and you kind of like, well, is that an inflated price for? I mean, top of your head, boys. Top of your head. How many players in that Ipswich team, for example, do you think go into and have a good career, for example, a steady career in other Premier League clubs? Because I think Delap's been the one that's been.
I think there are some. They're a young team. They're a young
Yeah.
team.
But what I'm saying is, if you're going to spend that much money, because it's just a standard, 100 million is like a standard amount of money.
Yeah, but I think what it is though, Lou, I think they was looking at also that if they do go down, they've got the firepower to get straight back up.
There's
the counter argument on that. Yeah. With their team, I'd say there's about 3 players that I think will go on to have good careers: Delap, Hutchinson, and Leif Davis. I think Leif Davis is a good player. I think what it is with Ipswich is
possibly Jack Clark.
I think Clark is a good player, but he's just been around every club. He was at Tottenham, and he was at Leeds, and he was at Sunderland, and he can't maintain it at Ipswich and being a first team regular. The only issue is that I thought McKenna would have kept him up, because I think he's a really good manager, and he's got nowhere near it. But maybe that's a learning thing for him. Maybe that's a bit of a right. He's felt the Premier League, because that's the first time he's managed in the Premier League as a manager, not an assistant. So, it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts.
Yeah, plus it's very difficult. Remember, they've got back-to-back promotions. I mean, they were in League One a couple of seasons ago. It's very difficult to go from League One to Championship, then Championship to Prem, and expect to kind of survive.
Yeah.
Very difficult task, but I think they've gone about it well. They didn't remortgage the house, as it were. They didn't spend beyond their means. So, like I say, they'll be relegated, and if they can keep that team more or less together, they'll get a nice few quid for Delap, probably in the 30 million range for Delap. And if they can, replace him well, strengthen another couple of positions. I mean, in the Championship next season, they'll be an incredibly good side. They really should, if they keep Kieran McKenna as well, I think they really should bounce right back. And it may be having that one season in the Premier League, plus the parachute payment, plus the money they'll get for Delap, keeping the team together. If at the end of next season they come back up and they can spend another 100 million on an already really good squad, then maybe the players that get in at the end of next season will make the difference for them, where they can make a better fist of staying up in the Premier League. And it's difficult to get in the kind of players that other teams in the Premier League have when you've just been promoted. So you're looking around thinking, okay, maybe we could use some players here with Premier League experience. And then you go try and sign one who's been around a bit and you think will be good in the dressing room. And then he's like, yeah, I want 120k a week. And you're like, oh, fucking hell. You're 32. He's like, no, 120. You know what I mean? So it's very difficult. But, I think, they'll bounce right back. I think they'll come straight back up. And if they can invest wisely in the meantime, they might be able to make a better fist of it next time around. But it's a little bit scary to me at the moment that they can get promoted, spend quite a lot of money, and still be playing against teams really like Man United, Tottenham, West Ham, and Wolves for large parts of the season. When they're looking at those teams, thinking, Wolves have got Mateus Cunha, players like that, Nuri, and these guys, and West Ham, you've got like Bowen and Kudus and Paqueta and stuff, and then they're looking at Man United with Fernandez and all these players, and they're like, fucking hell, like, what if they're down there and we have to try and finish ahead of these kind of teams with their players? We're playing against, West Ham here, and they've got a £50 million midfielder. That's our, that's half our starting 11 in one player. It's like we can't, and I think a lot of teams are going to have that. I'll be very interested to see with the teams coming up. With Leeds and Burnley and whoever joins them. Probably Sheffield United, I think. But it'll be interesting to see if any of those go the Nottingham Forest route and say, you know what, to hell with it. We're going to spend. And if it gets us in PSR trouble with the Premier League and we have to take a points deduction, it might still be our best chance to stay up.
Yeah.
I think it says a lot about the teams like Bournemouth, Fulham, maybe, and even Brentford, that they don't have to necessarily go out and spend a lot of money. They'll go and get quality over quantity. And when your scouting system is as good as some of those clubs are, you haven't really got to worry about, if we go and spend, over 20 million on this person, they're going to work out. There's a reason why they bring certain players in. And look, there has to be a consistency to it. Bournemouth have had a good season this season. They need to sort of keep that up to make it work and make it, a reliable system to work on. But
Forest were crazy, didn't they? Forest just were
Forest ridiculous.
Forest, I think, at one point had about a squad of about 31 or 32 players.
Yeah.
They just bought an unbelievable amount of players and spent a lot of money, and it was like they were never going to stop. They had a ridiculously huge squad. But they found their 11. They found their squad out of all of those, sold off the others, and to be fair, it's worked for them because
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
They're going to be in Europe next season.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's two ways of looking at it. If you don't spend enough, you're not ambitious, and if you overspend, you're a bit mad. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can't win either way to a point.
You've got to find happy medium.
But you have got to find the happy medium, and you've got to find the sort of balance. I don't blame Forest, but I just look at the Premier League as a whole. And the thing is, Forest are a prime example of how to stay in the league, and basically you're going to have to cheat your way to victories, so to speak. Like 3 years ago, they got promoted. And in the space of 3 years, they've gone from a side that hadn't been in the Premier League for 20 plus years, 25 years, to a side now that are going to be in Europe in some form in the space of a 3-year project. And basically, when I look at the Premier League, it used to be the top 6. Now you look at Villa, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Brighton, us, Fulham. I'm going to put us in there because I think we're a good side, but we've just not got a good team at the minute. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's a difficult one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, Luke, if any of the other promoted teams, whether it's this year or some other year, have an owner who's got the money and is willing to spend it, and is like, oh fuck it, I'm just spending like crazy here. I'm just going to try and give us the only chance that I think we've got to try and stay up and just accept the points deduction. I mean, it could come to the point where you literally kind of have to take that gamble. If every year you're seeing teams trying to do it legally the right way, and it gets them absolutely nowhere, they just go back down with very few points. It's probably going to become more common.
I'd say but you just brought up a good point there about teams coming up and trying to spend and stuff. It would be interesting to see what happens if Wrexham come up. If they keep on as Wrexham, they're going on, because not only have they got money and they're spending money in the lower leagues to bring in players, a bit like Birmingham have in League One. But obviously they've got Hollywood owners, and if they come to the Premier League, that would boost ratings. People would want to watch Wrexham in the Premier League, and it would be quite interesting for me if the Premier League gave them a bit of a helping hand, shall we say? Be call that a conspiracy, call that a skepticism, whatever you want to call it. But for some people, because they get, I watch it. I watch their documentary on Disney as soon as it comes out. I watch it. I haven't watched the latest one, ironically, yet. But if you've got Tom Brady at Birmingham, he hasn't quite got the same pull as it seems Ryan Reynolds and Bob McElhenney do. But if the Premier League get a team like that, who aren't just a team at the moment, they're almost like a drama series, like within a team, within a club, and they go, right, they're in the Premier League, they're going to bring even more eyes onto the league than there was before. So they go, right, we'll have them, they can stay, but then someone else is going to have to be sacrificed. And so I know that it's probably me overthinking things, but there's something to it where, because there was a conspiracy theory at the start that when Forest were looking to get promoted, they had a dodgy penalty decision given to them, or dodgy goal in the playoff final against Sheffield Wednesday, or whoever it was, whoever they were playing, Huddersfield.
Southampton, I mean, it was. Was it Southampton? Yeah, I think it was Southampton. I can't remember. It was. Yeah.
There was a thing that basically the media was all over Nottingham Forest at the time. They were like, wow, we could have one of the Premier League originals back in the league, and we want that to happen. And it seems to be, I could be wrong, but that's just the gist I got from all the comments I was reading from the reaction of everything that was going on in the game. The Forest got a lot of leeway decisions wise, and
this is why it's important that we don't go down. Because I think if we go down,
we're fucked.
Yeah, and I mean that. You could see a Leeds situation with West Ham, where it takes years to get back to being a stable Premier League club. Do you know what I'm saying? And especially the way this season's gone with Potter, with the owners, everything, it just feels like it's a downward spiral.
Is there right? Because I keep hearing about could be the death of West Ham and stuff like that, but a lot of us and a lot of people who are more diehard West Ham fans than I'll ever be, for whatever reason, for background, the way they grew up with the club and stuff like that, right? They say West Ham, the club is dead. The family orientation of it, the closeness,
right.
We're almost like a plastic version of what West Ham used to be, and it's disgusting. And they want the owners gone because it's
that changes, Lou. I was going to say this. Talk about in there, and I'll let you land. Yeah, I was going to say this. That changes once Sullivan's out the door.
Right, no, I get that.
Yeah, straight away.
What I'm saying is the alternate version. Like, say if we did become Leeds, say we did mix around in the lower leagues for a lot. Is it as bad as?
It is really though, right? Because the reason being, as I just sort this mic out, it is really because I don't want to see West Ham like that, mate. I just it's not us. It's not us. We're better than that, and it's like we've had to degrade ourselves for the sake of just accepting it. Do you know what I mean? In the way of life, you don't accept that. Like I don't think we should accept being. Because how far do you go? Basically, the question is on this is how far do you go? Do you go League One and say, oh, West Ham League One doesn't matter, or do you go Championship, or do you just go like top end Championship, bottom end Premier League? West Ham are a top 10 side, mate. Like, and I feel like people now. I don't like hearing that when people say, oh, we're a plastic version of ourselves, because we've moved from Upton Park to Stratford. Right. I don't like the move, but we're still West Ham United, regardless of that. Like the crest and everything about us instead of about us. I just feel that changes once the owner's gone, the owner comes in, and also it changes. My honest opinion on this, it changes once we get our hands on that stadium and brand it the way what we are.
I'm not denying. I completely agree with everything you said. I'm looking at it from an alternative viewpoint of that. For me, we are big enough to be in that position you're talking about, top 10, top 6 of the Premier League. But you've got to also you earn the right to be there. I know that how big West Ham are. I know how big our fan base is and our history, etc., right? But teams like Leeds are also massive. There are other teams out there who are also massive and aren't in a position that we're in. So really, I'm talking from like a football fan perspective at this point. I'm taking my West Ham goggles off. I'm looking at it right. Is that I'm not saying it's a great idea us going down. I'm not saying it's perfect to get all the feel good back, but what I'm saying is at the minute we seem to be in a constant battle to get West Ham to where the owners said we were going to be. This is a constant thing of like we've moved to a stadium and we're still the same old shit West Ham in a bigger stadium, glitz and glamour wise. It's like a plastic, like a not plastic, a synthetic like it's a synthetic glamorized West Ham because there's no real essence substance to it. It's just there. We're in a big stadium, but we might as well still be Upton Park with what we've achieved practically, right? So if the West Ham fans that feel that the love and the connection and everything about West Ham that was good and what made you fall in love with West Ham in the first place has been gone with the move, and we've made basically with the same West Ham in the bigger stadium. If we did go down, does some of that come back?
It gets worse, mate.
You're going to have genuine fans going every week because you're not going to have the tourist fans because the Premier League brings in the tourist fans, whereas maybe you get a few in the Championship, but not as many. The atmosphere comes back because people.
Well, I'm just going to say this, Lou. It gets worse. It gets worse in a bad way. If we go down, and Sullivan's still in charge, then people will.
Does he go? Does he go?
I don't think he's going nowhere, mate. Right.
Well,
the only way
if we get relegated,
the only way he goes is if we force him out the door. That's the only way he's going to leave it. If you do protests and petitions and everything, and you maintain this for a consistent amount of time, that's the only way you're going to ever get him out. But the problem is that if you, we go down, the tourist fans are still going to turn up because it's a cheap day out.
I'm just saying, but for the concept of when you get, like, for example, when I say tourist fan, I mean fans that just come for the Premier League experience, which is, that's fine, that's cool. But
there's plenty of teams tourists can go and watch in the Premier League.
A West Ham fan is genuinely missing out on that ticket. And what I'm saying is if the more you get, it's like the atmosphere will obviously take a hit because they're not going to be singing and chanting up, for West Ham. They're just going to watch a football game, which is absolutely fair enough. But if you I know there's a lot of people. I know personally there's a lot of people who not because of the stadium, but they want to go and see West Ham. And there's more chances now to go to West Ham because of the London Stadium being more accessible and a cheap just cheaper tickets or whatever you want to call it. But there's if they were offered a season ticket, or if they got to offer a season ticket, they would take it. And
right.
That's just my circle. That's just people that and there's obviously the West Ham is a huge club fan base wise. And if we went
the reason why though people are walking away now is because the penny's finally dropped.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not
disputing. This is not on the fans anymore. This is on the owner. And as I have always said, and I've maintained this for years, ever since I've done YouTube, and people love and hate me. I've got a love-hate relationship with many people. Some people despise me, block me, and all that because I can't handle the truth. I can't help them people. But all I'm going to say is this: is people are starting to see it now for what it really is. And the light is firmly shining on David Sullivan. Last season, everyone said about getting Moyes out the door. Fine. David Sullivan goes on the points, Julian Lopetegui. That's an insult to every West Ham fan. Because if you're looking at the best in class, Julian Lopetegui is not the best in class. He simply isn't. And I look at us, and that falls on the owner. The owner has done a lot of stuff to this club, and I think people have started to have enough of the stadium. They've started to have enough that they're being treated like customers. So the supporters, and they mistreat with tickets, with other sort of issues in regard to ticketing and how to get tickets and selling tickets. This is an ongoing thing that's been going on for a long time. This has been building up, and from afar, from me not being involved in going, I've seen it happening over and over again. And this is coming, and I think you've got to get him out. You've got to get the owner out the door, right? Once you get the owner out the door, a new owner comes in and says, right, to all the supporters of West Ham, what is it? What's your main concern? And I think everyone with half a brain would say the stadium. It'd be like that'd be the first thing. Like, you've got to remodernise that stadium. And I think West Ham fans would accept that deep down, and they said, right, if we're going to finish mid-table for the next 5 years, but that stadium's going to be changed and feel like home. I think West Ham fans would accept that, mate. And I don't think they would worry about star signings. They would just worry about maintaining it. And you'd have a similar situation like you had at Arsenal when Arsenal moved from Highbury to the Emirates with a change where they had to sort of go for a bit of a lull before they got to where they want to get to. and the same thing is with us. This is it's you've got to feel like you're claret and blue. Like we feel it in spirit, but we don't feel it in there. If it makes sense.
No, I get you. I will dispute the thing about Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal did accept it. I think Arsenal went Wenger out very quickly, and they. I'm not. I get the point you were making. I get that. I'm just saying that's. I don't agree where Arsenal's concerned, but I think with me, my big thing this season, no matter who's in charge, I wanted to see better football. I wanted to see more attacking football. I didn't get that. Maybe a few games it was pretty good, but
I think even that would just be a really good start.
That's what I'm saying. So
if we were playing entertaining football and it was exciting to go watch West Ham, there were always goals, and we're fighting and challenging for a European spot at the right end of the table, then you can probably tolerate the stuff you don't like a bit 100%, better. 100%. But when there are other things you don't like you don't particularly like the stadium,
it will make
when
it
you
worse.
have to go there and watch your team play boring shit football and hardly ever winning a game, then everything becomes a big problem. You know what I mean? That's what's happening at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's strange because Sullivan doesn't seem to get that, which is weird. He doesn't seem to understand, okay, if I can at least entertain them, then, and we're playing good football, it's exciting, they actually enjoy watching the football, then they'll start turning up again and they'll fill the seats again, and the atmosphere will improve and the fan base will feel better, even though they still don't love the stadium, they still hate me, but nothing will distract fans more than a football team they can go and watch that's entertaining and plays good brand of football.
Do you feel though, Tommy, right, that people would go back if the football was entertaining? Because I think people are starting to walk away in their thousands, and that's more of a concern. Is where people are walking away, ain't just a couple of hundred. Like we're talking like thousands upon thousands of fans saying, "I'm not renewing," and that's like. This is a change that what it is. It feels like it's a protest within a protest, if it makes sense. That they're protesting, saying, "Right, I'm not getting a season ticket." And these are some of the people. These are not just one season ticket a year merchants. These are 10, 20, 30-year people that can't afford to go in a way because of obviously with the concessions, everything, and all that palaver this year. It has been a mess at this club for the last year, and where we was 2 years ago. And funny enough, in 2 weeks' time, it'd be two years to the day that West Ham won the trophy. Where we are right now, I think, is a crime, if I'm being honest. West Ham should nowhere near be at the bottom half of the league. And when I look at our squad, and we'll probably speak about it in a minute, the squad's embarrassing for some of the players that we've got in it, really. And Potter's got the biggest rebuild of his life coming. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think the squad's as bad as our position. It's not as bad as our performances. It's not as bad as our results. I think we're better than that. A lot of these players played for us in Europe, not that long ago, and got us there. So, I don't think the squad's as bad as people. I think there's a certain amount of naivety with a certain section of our fan base who, because of the way this season has gone, are now convinced that all our players are all shit.
I agree with you on this.
And it's just not the case. And I said, but don't worry, Potter's going to clear all the crap and he's going to bring all his own players in. And next season it'll be much better. I think those people are in for a rude awakening. Our squad is not as bad as a lot of people are trying to get out.
Just for context, tell me who the players that you are saying that are not as bad, because I agree with you. I think part of our squad is shit. I'm going to be honest. I think we all know what part that is. All the old age players, all the players that like Mavropanos, who's no good really, and a few others. But give us context for the players that you think get a lot of stick and shouldn't be leaving, really, Tommy.
I would say, I think defensively is probably the problem, definitely. I think I said it at the time, and I'll reiterate: we paid double for Max Kilman, And obviously, Mavropanik isn't any better. I think in Wan-Bissaka, we've got a cracking player. I still think Emerson is a very solid left back who can do a good job at Premier League level. I think into midfield, I think Soler, used correctly, is a really good, tidy, neat footballer. I still think Alvarez is a really good DM. I think Lucas Paqueta, I know it depends where his head is at, and I think that has affected him this season. But as a player and managed correctly, I think Paqueta is an absolutely cracking player. Jared Bowen, one of the best right wingers in the country. Somerville, I think, is really good. Pity about the injury. Kudus, obviously, I think if played more centrally and allowed to attack and get after defences. And I think Fulkrug, again, injuries notwithstanding, I think Fulkrug's a really good forward. So I think as a starting 11, if we get the right players out there in the right tactics, the right way of playing, I think you could really get a serious tune out of a lot of them players. These are not shit players. Soler isn't at PSG because he's shit and can't play. It's not the case. I don't know what's happened. He's a very good player, but he's obviously fallen out with Potter for some reason.
Yeah.
But he's a really good player, Alvarez. I'm hearing this now. I'm hearing this that these players are not good enough. I've heard people literally saying that Alvarez is shit. Get rid of Alvarez, he's shit. No, he's not.
He's slow though, Tommy. He's slow.
He's slow and erratic.
He's faster. He's deployed properly.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to be honest, right? There's one player out of all of them where it does really irritate me because this season we've had two managers, and that's Mo. Like, I just, people have got this thing in their head that he wants out. Yeah, if he wants out, fine, but you've got to give him benefit of doubt for this season. Sure to God, when you got Lopetegui playing on the left, you got Potter playing him as a second striker. It just feels like, we've got to find someone. If it ain't him, it's Souček. And it goes down the spine of the side. The spine of West Ham's side currently right now is shocking. Like, we've got no real midfield, solid midfield. We've got two defenders at the back that are 75 million between them. That's embarrassing. Like, they're not 75 million pound players, mate. Like, between the pair of them, Kilman and Todibo. And then you've got a goalkeeper in Areola who can't play the ball out with his feet. And this is where Potter's going to lose me big time if he doesn't go and get a goalkeeper this summer. Because if he goes with Areola...
fucking Areola just can't do
Honestly, Tommy, if he goes with Areola next year and he doesn't go out and get a goalkeeper who's not a ball-playing goalkeeper, then he's asking for criticism straight away. Right? I think the whole spine of West Ham needs to be restructured. Now, whether or not that's Freddie Potts coming in, and listen, I heard a lot of good things from Pompey fans saying about Freddie, but is Freddie ready for this? Right? I want to see him play. I think he is ready, but he's coming into a place where, fuck me, we're going to have to rely on this kid now. Like, do you know what I'm saying? And that's a concern for me. I don't want to have to rely on Freddie Potts, but we're going to have to. And then centre forward aspect, Ings is going, fair enough. Evan Ferguson hasn't worked out. Nicholas Fulkrug is like, I don't know what's going on with that. And then you got Mikel Antonio. What do you do with him? Like, do you offer him a new deal, give him a year, pay as you play, or do you let him go?
He won't take pay as you play, so I think we have to release him, frankly.
That's what I'm saying. So it's a major restructural job. Then I heard Potter the other day saying in an interview, he goes, I want to sort of lower the squad, like the size of the squad, and have a smaller squad. This won't go well, mate. If we get a couple of injuries, then we're scrambling, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends what he means by smaller squad, I guess. But you can probably get away with it when you don't have Europe. But of course, if we qualify for Europe, then you have to beef it up. But I think if you're essentially just playing one game a week, apart from cup weekends or cup midweek games in the Carabao, smaller squad you can probably get away with.
Yeah.
But you also, as I say, if it's a smaller squad, you better fucking have quality on the bench.
Yeah.
You're going to need that bench. You're going to have to be bringing these players on every game as subs. And you're going to get some injuries and suspensions during the year, and you better have very good replacement for the starting 11 if you want to have a really small squad, because they're going to be playing basically all the games.
What do you think of Potter, Tommy?
So far, not much.
I agree.
To be fair, I didn't think much of him before he joined. There were some myths I thought about Potter. Like at Brighton, the myth was that he'd done this unbelievable job. Simply wasn't the case. They had a couple of really poor finishes and one decent finish. And it was this pragmatic kind of football, tippy-tappy, knock it about. There was, in his third season, let's put it this way, in his third season at Brighton, so he's well established as Brighton's manager now, he's got his players, third season. They had one period of the season where they went 3 months without scoring at home. They also had another separate 3-month period where they didn't win a game at home.
Yeah.
And that's really what I was expecting. It's exactly what I've seen. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't expect it to be worse than Lopetegui. But points-wise, it has been. I mean, it's been absolutely dreadful. And I think we've won, is it 4 games?
17 points out of 17 Premier League games currently right now with one cup defeat. That's relegation, isn't it?
Yeah. It's horrendous. And you just wonder if we are like this at the beginning of next season, regardless of the teams coming up and how much they struggle for points, we're going to be right bang in trouble. And he's not going to last to the end of the season anyway. We'll end up changing the manager mid-season again. And I don't think we'll get relegated because of what I've said before with the PSR. I think it's made it nigh on impossible for teams that come up to stay up. But if one of the promoted teams, whether it's, say, Leeds, Sheffield United or Burnley or whoever, if they just happen to have a good season and they're up in like 15th, then somebody's fucking banging trouble. And under Graham Potter, it might be us. And I think it's naivety from a section of the fans. A lot of them seem saying, oh, don't worry, once Potter has all his own players, it'll be much better. If this is what he was able to do with the players that we had, which is a good squad of players. Okay, but maybe not, super squad of players, but we shouldn't have been languishing in 17th. No. Not by any stretch. No. I mean, even Lopetegui, as bad as he was, that is in 13th. I'm really pessimistic.
Yeah, I just don't get it with the fan base. Yeah, I really don't. I can't work this one out. 17 points, 17 games. Some of them defeats have been hard to accept. Like the Brighton one away from home, losing 3-2. Drawing with Southampton, one of the worst teams in the Premier League, and not being able to go through a team like the way we have. And then obviously even up to last Sunday, Nottingham Forest, where he comes out and he sets up with the most defensive side I've ever seen in my life. Do you know what I'm saying? I am worried about next year. I do disagree with you that he'll get sacked halfway through the season. I don't think Sullivan's going to sack him next year, mate. And I'll tell you the reason why is because there's a break clause in his contract. And that break clause comes into play next summer. So if West Ham go through the season, if they look at it and think, well, he's going to keep us in the league, and say, for instance, we have a similar season to this season where a lot of them teams are not as good, and say they're cut adrift or whatever, I think they will just leave it for another season and just sack him at the end of the season, or not sack him, like a mutual break, mutual consent. So I am concerned about Potter. I can't stress enough. I'm seeing the people that we've been linked with a lot of players from abroad. Can they handle it? There's even people like, and I know he's not the biggest fan of this player. Some people ain't the biggest fan of this player, but Thomas Souček possibly being sold, I don't think is the right move. Yeah, I think you're chucking out everyone that has got any sort of feeling towards West Ham, and this is a dangerous game we're playing here. Dangerous, because if we sign a load of players and they don't get up to speed at the same time, then we've got a load of players on the pitch who are all over the place, and we could have a similar situation with Lopetegui.
What do you think, Luke? I mean, any optimism going into next season? James being a bit too pessimistic, or do you think when Potter gets a few players in that we'll be a different team next season? Or you're muted.
You're on mute, Luke.
Sorry, apologize. Every manager needs their own players, right? There was an interview with Jermaine Defoe ages ago, and he said he's worked under a few managers, I think, including when he was at Tottenham. and they asked him, when a manager comes in and he says, right, clean slate, all players have got a fresh start under me. He said, is it true? He goes, no. He said, what happens is a manager he'll already know what job he's going into before he does. So he'll assess all the players before he gets the job in the first place. And then what he does is he goes up and he tells them, I like you, I've been watching you behind the scenes, you're my guy, you'll play. So that's when you get, say, a new manager, a manager starts in a job, and a player who maybe wasn't playing that well or hardly getting game time suddenly starts playing a lot, or starts, a striker hasn't scored goals, suddenly starts scoring goals because they put their arm around him. A bit like when Zola come in with Carlton Cole, put his arm around him in front of all of West Ham players and said, look, this is your number 9. This is the main guy here. This is the best striker we've got. Carlton Cole said he felt 10 foot tall, and that's the way it is. I think I am going to give him a chance. 10,000%. I'm going to give him a chance because also, yes, he probably could make a good fist of it with the players we've currently got, but I think your mic's muted now.
Yeah, sorry, I just want clarification if I can. Just when you say you're going to give him a chance, like what do you mean? Because like he's going to be here, so we know that, and he's going to get. So we're going to have to, in a way, in one sense, we're going to have to give him a chance because he's going to be here next season. But
yeah, I know.
Are you saying that in the sense that like you haven't really judged him yet? Is that what you mean? Because I have. I mean, I've judged him already. He's had half a season.
I know. Many people have judged him. To me, I can't be bothered to judge him in a minute because the same thing as Lopetegui. I didn't want Lopetegui to go, not because I liked Lopetegui, but because I didn't think there was anyone better to come in. So I had no faith in another appointment. To me, like the whole recruitment basis in the summer was a problem because 3 people wanted all the different players.
It'll be the same this time.
I think whatever. I'm past the point of caring at this point.
Yeah, but
for me,
you know Sullivan. You know what Sullivan's like. He's the one who's saying he's a couple of players.
Sullivan's going to get involved, mate. You know that.
I know. But Sullivan's also brought in a player that's won a Hammer of the Year this year. So I'm not saying every single signing is going to be.
But listen, I'm not saying that. Listen, the signing of like Sullivan's signing is always fucking perfect. Yeah, because obviously some of them are, some of them ain't.
Yeah.
The issue I've got with the Potter thing, I'll go back to what you said about not judging him.
Times, like
He's had 17 games at West Ham. That's nearly half a season, mate. He's had half a season, and half of this fan base don't trust him though.
I don't care, but I'm past the point of not trusting people. Listen, let me hear me out, and I'll tell you where I'm coming from. Right, fundamentally, the guy is working with the players of another manager. The one player he brought in the summer was a dud. One of the worst signs we've probably ever made in Ferguson. That went completely wrong. Right, he hasn't had a summer to bring in his own players. If he brings in his own players and they're shit in this and thing,
right,
fair enough. This way it's going. Right, you just watched. You watched Moyes when he was with us, when all the fan base wanted him out, go and win us a European trophy. You just seen Ange, who half the fan base at Tottenham don't think he's that good, go and win him a European trophy. Football is weird. It has a weird way of sometimes working out when it shouldn't work out and surprising a lot of people. Right at the minute, we are above the league in Spurs and Man United. Football's a weird fucking game, right? So and West Ham's a weird fucking.
Yeah, but I don't believe in all this. You got to go and get your own players. Because look at Wolves' manager.
Okay, well, don't. But what I'm saying is that the guy at the minute has factually stopped us leaking goals. Right? I'm not.
I can't get on board with that. We've had 4 wins though. 17.
This is. But what I'm saying, I'm not pro Potter. But what I'm saying is that the guy at the minute is working with players that he didn't bring in. So
no. Hold on a minute. Hold up. You've got to understand something. Yeah?
A good manager can come in and work with a squad of players and get them.
Yeah, I don't get this.
Any manager that ever comes in, say, right, you come into this club and we're never going to sign any more players ever. You just stick with this club you've got for the next 3 or 4 years and see what you can do.
But he's not a manager; he's a head coach. So,
it's head coach, manager. To say that you got managers out there. What you're going to say to this guy?
Okay. The best answer to this: tell me who he's improved.
He's not improved any. I'm not. This is right. You're not listening to what I'm saying. I've just said.
What I'm saying is, right. He's come into a club. yeah, that was 14th in the league. 7 points, maybe 8 points off
14th. I know, man.
off,
Brilliant 14th.
off,
Yeah,
of, off of Europe, right?
yeah.
He's had 4 wins: Leicester, Arsenal, Fulham, and Manchester United. Right, 4 wins out of 17 games. Right, all this about leaking goals is the biggest myth I've ever. Like, I've got to stop hearing this, because if we keep losing games 1-0 and 2-1 and 3-1 or 3-2, does it really fucking matter?
No,
Doesn't really matter. Do you know what I'm saying?
It is a fact.
Yeah, but I've seen him. I've seen him fold at Everton. I've seen him get done at Brighton. Right, I've seen him can't beat the worst team in the Premier League in Southampton. This is not a manager that I look at and think, "Fuck me, he's going to change the game for West Ham." And what is the goal with us? What, to keep us in the league? Is that what it is? I can't.
Well, for Sullivan, it probably is. But what I'm saying to you is that if he goes and does what he did with Brighton, which is bringing some better players and some, you know, for Sullivan it'd be great because he can bring in players for a cost of $1 million, sell them for 500 million. But that I'm gonna give him a chance in the summer. I'm sorry, I know you boys don't want to hear it. I know pretty most people in the chat and whatever, what you think, don't want to hear it. They want him sacked. They want to bring in another.
What I need to understand though is define a chance, because a chance to me is what, 10 games, 18 games.
Is half a season a chance?
So that's what I need to define.
You know, I'm probably not going to put a number on it. I'm going to put what I want to see. Because to be honest with you, but the season ended for me 4 minutes into the first game of the season when Onana went and scored for Villa, and I immediately knew, oh, this is going to go. This season's going to be a horrible season. He'll win that. It was all full of hope when Lopetegui in, and bang, it all dropped down straight away. But I'm not going to put. Look, to me, Potter's going to. If Potter goes, right, we're not going to get anyone better in because like you both said, the problem is not Potter. Realistically, the problem is not. We can sit here as much as we like and say. The problem is Sullivan.
Yeah, but it's like he's beyond criticism, though, Lou. Like I have this all the time on E20, yeah, and I have it with the boys on E20 and all, right? And I have to fight back on this one. I really do. Like, it's like you can't criticise this man. Like the other week, no. What I'm saying is that the other week against Nottingham Forest, we're playing at home. We've had 1 win in 9, and he goes with 8 or 9 defensive-minded players in a game where it's a dead game.
Yeah, I agree. It's disgusting.
I'm
not saying all hail Potter when he finally gets to summer window. What I'm saying is, I'm going to give him a chance if he gets his own players and see what they can do. If it's exactly the same shit, then fair enough. Then
I know exactly what's coming. I'll tell you what, it's mark my words on this. I know exactly what's coming. He goes and signs a load of players. People are going to say we start slow, and they're going to say, well, you've got to give the time for the players to bed into the club.
Yeah, no, you got the old
time to gel, time to bed in, all this crap. It's just the biggest myth ever. The Wolves manager, Lou, come into a club that was in a worse state than us.
I know. When Moyes came in and took over, Moyes changed us practically over. And I get it. I get exactly what you boys are saying. I get it. He's not giving. I'll tell you what. Okay, let's change the subject a little bit for me because this is only going to go one way, right? Who is the problem with West Ham?
It's everything. It starts from the top and works its way down.
So let's say Potter ain't the person. Who would you go in to get if Potter goes in the summer? I think hypothetically, who are you both getting in?
The problem is, right, this should have been done last summer. And it all goes back to last summer, right? And the problem is,
we ain't going to hire anyone.
Yeah, but us appointing Julian Lopetegui and look at us now has set us back 3 years. When you finished 9th last year, you go out and get a manager of top quality. Aston Villa went to Villarreal and got Unai Emery out of there. West Ham should have went to a club, identified that Moyes wasn't the guy, went all around Europe and find the next man, right?
Can I answer your question?
Go ahead.
I'll answer your question. I'll take Nuno. Nuno's going to leave Forest. There's reports of major fallout with him and the owner, and it looks like, for reasons best known to himself, the Forest owner is going to jettison Nuno because he thinks he can get a better manager now that they're going to be in Europe, and a manager. I would take Nuno.
Out of interest, Tommy, then, because basically Nottingham Forest are COVID West Ham. Are you going to go back to watching a Moyes style football? And providing that this isn't a flash in the pan season for Nottingham Forest, and they stay on this trajectory, and they don't find that Europe kills them off like it does some clubs, and they start to like they have this season where they was in the top 4, and suddenly their owners march on the pitch because they can't beat Leicester, already relegated, and they've hit a rough patch. Are we going to go back to wanting Moyes style football, counter-attacking football, anti-West Ham football that no one liked, everyone wanted Moyes out in the first place for? Is that the answer? Go and get the guy who plays a similar style of football just because it's winning. It's winning.
Yeah, but isn't that what Potter is right now at West Ham? Though?
Yeah, but so we're going back to that thing then that when we were winning under Moyes, but it was still shit. Everyone wanted him out still, including myself. So it was like, yeah, we win, but it doesn't feel like a win. It feels like a loss because we're playing shit football. Yeah, so we're going to get in a carbon copy. We're going to get.
But the difference is though, Lou, is wanting Moyes out, and I didn't agree with you boys about it because I said, well, look who we got in charge of the club, right? And I was like, Moyes has stabilised us to a point to be sort of competing in Europe at all levels, whether you like the football or not, right?
I agree. Yeah.
The moment you get rid of Moyes, you have to have an upgrade that is better than him and better in all aspects, yeah? And going out and giving us Julian Lopetegui, who got sacked from Wolves after about 6 months or 9 months or whatever it was in charge, that's embarrassing. That goes back to the ownership. The issue with Potter currently right now at West Ham is no one's got no faith in this geezer to go out and get all these players. They're all going to gel and West Ham are going to kick into gear. And the problem is if we start slow, we could have a similar situation with Lopetegui. Like, he doesn't score many goals.
You're both not quite, and I don't know if this means probably you're both not really understanding what I'm saying. I think I'm
going to throw you a bone because I think I do know where you're coming from, and I have to say I don't entirely disagree.
I apologise if this is the way I'm putting it, by the way, because I know I can be like that.
No. I'll tell you what. The problem is, even if we did sack Potter this summer, it's Sullivan who'll pick the new manager.
Thank you. This is the main point. It doesn't matter if it's Potter. It's going to be someone else that's going to piss off the rest of the face. It's going to be someone else that. But you might as well keep. What I'm saying is, you might as well keep Potter, regardless of whether you're faithful or not, right? And give him the slightest little minute chance of seeing what can happen if he does bring players in, because that is the only ounce of optimism you will get out of next season. Because if you're going to go, well, Potter's shit because he's done nothing with this current squad, even though it's quite a good squad, even though the midfield is dead and slow and no pace in it whatsoever at all, you might as well play long ball football with this team because there's no midfield at all as we are. But if you all write him off now and go, right, he's not the guy because he can't get the best out of his team, and then go have another dud, which is what Sullivan is classic for, because he got lucky with Moyes. He didn't
but don't you realise?
I'll tell you, I don't disagree with any of that, Luke. But let me tell you just one thing: the reason I still would pull the trigger is because I have no faith in Potter. Like genuinely, I just have no faith in him. I'm not a Premier League manager. And the other reason being, despite the fact that Sullivan will pick the next manager, it's like even a broken clock is right twice a day. He might just get fucking lucky. He might get lucky and pick a manager who happens to turn out to do a really good job just out of pure luck.
Fingers crossed.
I just what it is with me is I've seen him in 17 games now for West Ham, Potter. I've not seen him get the best out of any of our players that have been down in the dumps. It just seems like they've all been declining around us. Jared Bowen as a centre forward in a two-man strike force makes no sense to me.
He's frustrated me with
and he's going to lose people on this, right? If he's going to put one of our best right wingers as a second striker, that is going to make no sense to a lot of people, right? Bowen used to play in a 4-3-3 with Paqueta and Kudus, right? And I didn't mind him in a 4-3-3 because they all interchanged and all rotated. Even a two-man strike force doesn't make no sense, right? And this is where he's going to lose the fan base to a point, yeah, because Bowen is the key vocal point in our side. This thing with Thomas Souček, whether you like him or you don't like him, it's irrelevant. Thomas Souček understands West Ham, right? He seems like he's picking apart all the players that who get the club, and all we're going to have left is Bowen. And I feel sorry for Bowen. I really do. Like we've got him here by fucking prisoner, by the looks of it. You know what I'm saying? So
the tea lady, the fucking tea lady, could have told Potter playing Bowen up top's a really bad idea. You know,
in the toe, yeah.
I mean, there's not a person at the club that could not have told him that I wouldn't, mate. I wouldn't. That's not a good idea. He doesn't thrive up front as a 9.
I think there's a lot of things with Potter that I don't like, Tommy. Yeah, there's a system. The system makes no sense. 3-4-3. Yeah, he usually plays. Or for me personally, it's a 5-3-2. Because when West Ham are defending against sides, they're retreating into a back five, and they've got too many defensive-minded players. That's fine. But then, once his back's firmly against the wall, he rotates it, changes it to a 4-3-3 with a different side. The other week against Forest, he goes 4-3-3, and within seconds, we are on their goal. We're attacking. We're having chances. I think he's. Someone said to me on a space a while ago, they said, James, his win percentage in the Premier League is 22-24%. And that was at Brighton and Chelsea combined. Like, if he, like, we're going to have to spend 150 million to get that up to about 30. That's a lot of dough to try and spend on trying to get these guys to win games.
That's a bit. Hold on. That's just to play devil's advocate there. The win percentage at Chelsea will bring it down miraculously because you could be average at Brighton, and like he got him. Did he get him in Europe? Was he the one that qualified him for Europe?
He didn't get him in Europe. No, Zerbi got him in Europe.
No, but yeah, but the flat line career.
Yeah, I think he finished. Was it 15th?
16th, 15th, and 8th or 9th or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, it's like I need what's been his manager bounce? That's what I'm trying to say. Like,
he had a very small manager bounce. He did, and this is he keeps sounding like I'm sticking up for him, but at this point I just don't care. To be honest with you, there was the FA Cup game against Villa, and everyone fell in love with it. It was brilliant. Everyone was on a high, even though we lost. But it was still the way we played was fantastic. Then it was the win against Fulham, which was it was a bit hard to watch at times, but you kind of thought, okay, well this is starting to click now. We can sort of see where it's coming from. Then he just didn't. Then he sort of dropped out fairly quickly after that. I'm not saying he's a miracle worker. I'm not saying anything. I just think he's a conveyor belt manager for us. We are on that. We are on this trajectory at the minute where the strange thing with Sullivan is that he doesn't mind spilling out 40 plus million on an average player, but he won't go and spend a lot of money to get a manager out of his contract.
Yeah, but you've also got to understand this ain't Sullivan's appointment, right?
The only thing I can think of as to why that is with a player, you've got more chance of making profit, making some sort of money if you sell them. Although a manager, you won't get, unless they're bought out by another club, you're either going to have to sack them.
Yeah,
but I think Sullivan just likes to have managers who are grateful to be in the job and will just toe the line.
Yeah,
bang on. Always free transfers. Never buys no one out of a contract. They're always sort of begging for a job. And West Ham's quite a good catch.
Never brings in a strong character.
Never.
You know what I mean?
And you never bring in someone who overpowering.
Southgate or someone, just someone else is just really grateful to have a Premier League job and a chance to prove themselves in the Premier League.
There's so many little things that he's done so far this season. Like, we've been crying out for a centre forward up front for ages, and he goes with Kudus and Bowen. And 4 Krug's on the bench, and this geezer's not shit. He's playing Champions League. He's played in Euros, World Cups for Germany. And we're going with Kudus and Bowen up front in a 2-man attack. And it feels like to me that he doesn't know how to drop people. And subbing off Bowen, I don't agree with subbing off Bowen. I really don't. He subbed off Bowen at Manchester United. I know we won the game, but he's done it a few times where he's subbing off the captain. I don't agree with that because he's the focal point of our side. There's little things he's done. He's meltdown after Brighton when we lost the game, and he was like in the interview room, and he's like, "Well, what do you want me to do? Swear and all this stuff." Like, the thing is with Potter is I was fully behind him when he come in. After seeing him in 17 games, which is half a season as good as, I've not seen nothing of this geezer, mate, to get anything out of the best of these players. And let's have it right. And what Tommy's saying is true. Tadebo's not bad. Kilman, is he £40 million player? That's debatable, right? He's not really.
No,
right?
no.
So, but is he a bad player? I don't think he's a bad player, right? Wan-Bissaka's not bad. Emerson's not bad. You go into the midfield. The midfield's the problem. We all know that. But then you got strikers there. You got Evan Ferguson, Krug. You got Bowen who can go up front, and we're playing Bowen and Kudus. It just feels weird. It just feels like I don't know what he's trying to achieve. That's the $1 million question. I don't know what he's trying to do.
The thing is, it doesn't really appear like he quite knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like he's just like fumbling around in the dark, just trying to find something that will work in some way for him. And he's been trying everything, which is an alarming thing because he's supposed to be a football coach. You know, he's supposed to be able to come in and say, okay, look, maybe these players can't quite do what I want to do, but let's get them doing what they can do until the end of the season. And let's just get through this till the end of the season.
That's
If I
right.
need to change out some players and play the way I really want to
It's
play,
even
then
Lewis,
we'll
can you
do
hear
that.
me?
He hasn't been able to get a tune out of a single player, really. And it's alarming. He's supposed to be a coach. You know, there's no point to take players who can't do things and try and make them do things they can't do. And it just has ended up he's fumbling around, swapping out players left, right, and centre. Just to me, it hasn't looked like he knows what he's doing.
What it is, Tommy, what it is, yeah, I understand what Lou's saying. I do. Because there's no point sitting here going, Potter out. Yeah, there's no point because he ain't going nowhere. Right? We all know it, right? So there's no point saying that. The issue I've got with him is it feels like to me that he's a bit untouchable at the minute. And I don't agree with that. And I said to someone the other day, right, with the stats as it is, that's relegation material. If he starts next season like that, are people going to turn around and say, well, you've got to give him time to like, he's just brought in 10 new players. That's the excuse that he's coming. I know that's the excuse which he's coming because he's going to have to. People are going to say, well, he's did a major rebuild. He's got to bring these players in, and we've got to see how they get on in the first season. And yes, that is true, but you also got to hit the ground running. Do you know what I'm saying? I look at the Wolves manager is a prime example here. He's come into that club, he's galvanised that club, and I watched him against Manchester City. And I know Manchester City haven't been great this season, but at the Etihad they went straight through Manchester City like quicker than that cat's come on screen. So there you go. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's just, I get some people are very positive, some people are very negative. I think we've got to be balanced in this one, and with Potter, I just don't trust him. It's more than trust him.
I don't either, but like you, Luke, I suppose the one thing I can say, Luke, in your defence is we may as well fucking just wait and see what happens and at the start of next season
Lads, I'll be honest with you, I gave up.
An expectation, but I think by the time next season is ready to kick off, I'll have kind of gotten over this season a little bit more. We'll have gotten some players in, maybe some good ones that we really like. We'll see. Maybe we'll have a good summer and we like the players and we'll say, all right, let's see how we go.
I'll say that to him.
Maybe more
allowed
season than I am now, but yeah. But I know I understand where you're coming from, Luke. As look, we may as fucking well just.
Well, I know, but from my perspective, like I mentally gave up with the season quite a while ago. I mean, quite a while ago. It was I've found it for personal reasons. I found it very hard to get into games. I've been about I reckon 5 games tops this season. There's something about it. There's other personal stuff that I won't go into. Why I haven't gone as well. But this has been such a shit show from such. I've got a lot of conspiracies I think that's going on as well regarding like player sales and the reason why certain players play and certain players don't. I think there's been a lot of instructions given to him based on how the rest of the season goes, and then the next season starts just from reports that have been gathering and stuff like that. The other one on Kudus, which is I found quite interesting, was Kudus was mentally worse than Paqueta at one point in the season because he had almost like the entire nation of Ghana on his back because he was expected to go qualify for the African Cup of Nations, and he was like captain, he was like the main player. He got feral abuse from Ghanaians fans, and Potter being a psychologist, master of psychology, according to what we have all heard, Kudus apparently needed support and never received the support. I don't know if that's true or not because I know what goes on training, but from what I hear, he's taken a lot of where Paqueta's breaking down on the pitch crying because he's got a yellow card and everything's getting on top of him. Apparently Kudus has been in the same position, if not worse, due to the fallout from Ghana not qualifying for the African Cup of Nations. And then obviously having a change of manager and stuff like that. And obviously he probably doesn't really want to be here anymore anyway. So he's probably putting himself in the shop window saying, I want to go next season playing so someone buys me. Of course, the buyout clause is there as well. So that's what surprised me as well. I think, you know, we've got players there that this is the problem. Half those players know they're not going to be there next year. Half of them, at least half of them know that they're going and getting sold or whatever, right? So you're going to have to try and motivate these players that play to the end of the season, and then why would they care? Why would they give a shit?
Yeah, but I don't think this is all on the players, though, mate.
No, I'm not saying it is. No,
Yeah.
I'm saying from a business perspective, if you're playing for a club that you know basically want to sell you because they want to clear out in the summer and say we're not going to achieve anything this year because we're not going to get anywhere near close to the top, you know, mid-table at least. We're going to just be half those. You can tell when they're playing. Half the players just don't. Their heads ain't in it. There's a few players that will try it and do what they want, but there's a few.
I can agree with you partly. But
Right.
on the other half, there is part of some of these players, like Guilherme, who doesn't really get a look.
I agree. I'm pissed off with that. I'm
looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, well, if these players are leaving, everyone's sad and they've had enough and they don't fancy it, and you've got a young lad who's just come in last summer, why has he not played every other game for West Ham?
Exactly. A lot of that doesn't that a lot come down to, and I swear I'll always say this, agents get away with a lot. Is there not sort of contractual things like they have to play a certain amount of games?
No. He's had the opportunity to play this year, right, Guilherme? And he's had to, I remember he played against Chelsea.
He was brilliant.
I can't remember if he was under Lopetegui. No, it was under Potter. He played against Chelsea, or he come on against Chelsea. Yeah. Then we didn't see him for ages and ages and ages. Then all of a sudden, after the international break, Wolves away, he's playing. I'm thinking, well, what's going on there, sort of thing? Like, you're just chucking him in. He had a poor half in that game. Do you know what I'm saying? And
it's the same with Scholes and Irvine. I mean, Irvine played really well against Chelsea.
Scholes is an interesting one for me. It really is, because he got Scholes on board. And I don't like to say this a Potter. I don't, but I just hope he hasn't brought Scholes in and sort of been, we'll bring him in to make him get on board with the fans, right? Yeah. Because there was two games that Scholes had two baddish games, for his standard. Bournemouth in the beginning part of April. I remember it because it was the Grand National Day. And the following week, it was Liverpool away, where he was up against Salah, and he had 45 minutes against Salah. Wasn't fucking good. Salah ruined him a little bit, and then Potter subbed him off on about the 55th minute. The issue is we haven't seen Scholes since, not once. And that's a concern to me. It really is. So I don't know. Like I get what you're saying. What Tommy just said. I'm going to say this. Yeah, I think Tommy's right. I think come the summer when we've got the signings there and you see pre-season, and pre-season is massive this summer. Anyone who's going to be following the pre-season, like any YouTubers like ourselves, we're going to be watching it from afar and analysing how that pre-season goes in America. And if West Ham are passing the ball about, cutting through teams, looking good, you will know in pre-season. And I remember last summer, when I was watching West Ham have a Dagenham Redbridge, and I see Lopetegui going berserk, and West Ham had a pretty strong side out that day. It just felt it wasn't right. It just didn't feel. You just know, yeah. And listen, if Potter turns up next year and proves me wrong, I'll be on E20 saying I got it completely wrong and I've got to take the fucking L. The issue is that I'm worried, mate, because if this goes wrong, we could go down, and that's the thing. And have I got any faith in him to keep us in the league next year? I don't know. If we start slow, and I don't think it'll be a Lopetegui thing again, mate. I think this will be Potter to the end of the season this time.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. And I do have to go because I've got work tomorrow. But if you're both free next Friday, I'd like to do a kind of season review show.
God, please don't.
Game by game.
Sorry, no, I completely understand if you're busy drinking battery acid. But,
yeah.
But if you are free for, a couple of hours of nightmarish talk, and going to bed very depressed, I'd love to have you both on, if you're free. And,
no worries, mate.
See what I can do.
We'll do a season review, and obviously we can get into the meat of everything we've kind of touched on tonight, and we'll make it maybe a nice long show or something. We'll really get into it. So thank you guys, really appreciate it. And as always, to everyone in the live chat, really appreciate you guys for joining. And if you're watching it back, leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the show just to get more eyes on it, which I'd appreciate if you can take a second to do that. And until then, I will see you all next week.